Well, Jewish deists believe that God created the world and retired to Florida, but
you're a professor of Jewish studies.
Yeah, Jewish studies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the most eloquent exponents coming from the Jewish philosophical tradition of religious freedom and the idea of religious liberty being a religious good is Moses Mendelssohn, who speaks about idea of religion involves persuasion as opposed to coercion. But I'm concerned in terms of religious liberty. I'm concerned about, maybe more than you are, about Wisconsin versus Yoder, which, to begin with, when I learned about it, I supported it. But I'm concerned about the right of exit from a religious group. Now, if the
Amish students, the Amish parents who didn't want to keep their kids in school until they were age 16.
And
so you have William O. Douglas's worry.
And they gave them vocational training. Now, I mean, you could still have private schools if they're concerned about the irreligious atmosphere of public schools. They could have private schools which meet state standards. They could have homeschooling which meets the state secular standards. I mean, they didn't want to give them a certain type of academic training. They did give them vocational training in the fields and certain trades, but that raises the question of to what extent it limits their opportunities if they leave the community. I'm coming to this specifically from also a Jewish background where this question has been raised in Israel and to a lesser extent in the United States with the ultra-Orthodox, where you have particularly ultra-Orthodox males who in Israel get very little, if any, basic secular training, and even in the United States, very little bit. Women get more for various reasons, and we know that when they try, many for various reasons are dissatisfied, and when they try to leave the community, it becomes very difficult because they have really no type of basic skills in terms of, unless they stay within the community. And so this, I think, the question of the right to exit and to what extent this limitation on education, for whatever reason, limits the right to exit, really is a very serious question, which I think raises questions about Wisconsin versus
So you
Yoder.
were troubled by that decision?
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm troubled by it, and as I say, I'm troubled by it because I see similar issues in the Jewish community about limitations of education, even in the name of religious freedom. It really hinders the right to exit of people who wish to, and then find that they don't have the skills necessary to find employment and in some sense to realize themselves in the broader outside world, and they stay in the narrow community just because it's easier, and there they have the support facilities, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly Justice Douglas's concern. Let me say first that I myself have enormous respect for the Amish communities that I myself have known, and for Orthodox Jewish communities. I think that these communities, which are communities of faith and more broadly kind of cultures, do make available to their members the resources for meaningful and valuable lives. And I think that's one thing we have to bear in mind in thinking about these. And we don't want to just enter as outsiders and take steps that would jeopardize the ability of these communities to continue. So that's a consideration on the other side of the ledger from the one that you raised. Now, culture will very often shape, culture by definition just shapes understanding and makes it very difficult for people to choose options. It sometimes makes options available, but at the same time limits options. I mean, this will sound like a bit of a side show, but just think, if you have any, you're on a college campus, think of the hookup culture on college campuses. Think about the kids who want to not participate in the hookup culture. A certain market of romantic relations, a certain understanding of what you got to do to be part of the group, what's available to you, is formed by that culture. It's not one in which courtship is really a realistic opportunity for very many students. So it has this shaping function. Now, that's a culture that I think a lot less of than I think of Amish or Orthodox Jews.
Explain what the hookup culture cultures? I'm sorry.
This is the culture. There are probably some students here who can explain it better than I can. That has been written about by a number of authors and discussed on blogs. That essentially eliminates courtship. So sexual encounters become fleeting, one-night stand sorts of things, where long-term romance, long-term commitment, movement toward marriage is no longer part of the picture. It's just sex without commitment, sex without even friendship. That it's
free prostitution.
Well, without the pay, without the money.
That's what
Free prostitution without the money.
I mean,
But anyway, so my point here with this analogy is just to say that cultures both create opportunities that would otherwise not be there, but at the same time they limit the opportunities. And so I think one of the things you want to look at in the case of any particular culture, if we are to evaluate it from the outside, which is difficult, is do we think on the whole the culture makes available to its people valuable, worthy, enriching possibilities for life, or does it not? And I just want to say that I think in the case of the Amish and the Orthodox Jews it does, although I grant you that the culture does also at the same time limit. Now, having said that, I do agree that there has to be, as far as the civil authority is concerned, a right to exit. That's critical to the right to religious freedom. You can't really have the right to follow your conscience on what really matters in life, these ultimate religious questions, if the civil authority can interfere with your leaving the faith. This is something that many Muslims are arguing about today within the Muslim community. Some who don't like the idea of a right to exit. Others who say no, that's got to be part of the picture. There can be, I don't know if they would use the word ecclesiastical, but there can be religious, not using state coercion, religious penalties for apostasy. But the power of the state shouldn't be engaged to punish apostasy.
The issue is not the civil authorities limiting the right to exit. The issue is the religious community, and I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I sent my kids to modern Orthodox religious day schools where they had many hours, and I paid a lot of money to do this in terms of religious education and inculcating the values. But the issue is whether religious communities like the Amish or ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities limiting basic secular education, which is generally considered to be necessary in order to survive in outside society,
Taking them out of the system at age 12.
practically making it, if not impossible, very difficult for these people to exit because they find they don't have the basic skills.
I don't disagree with your description, and I know it has that effect in many cases. I'm just trying to say that there's considerations on the other side of the ledger as well. Now,
I said I'm uneasy. I have no answer.
No, I don't think there's a good answer.
I'm just
I agree.
raising both sides of it.
If I recall the case, and Matt here again Matt Frank can help me if I'm getting this wrong. My understanding is that the concern was that the advanced learning beyond what was required to run the farm or work in the leather shop or to run the household for the girls, that learning beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic. So you could read the Bible, you could do the books and so forth for the business, the farm, the leather shop. That learning would tempt the students to worldliness, to pride, to eventual apostasy. So the concern wasn't just with the secular schools teaching bad doctrines.
Yes.
It was with the learning
Yes.
itself, that it would take you away from a simple life that had humility and tempt you with this worldliness and sinfulness. So again, where I come down, and I agree with you that this is difficult. There's a real cost. There's a cost here. The students are not going to have the effective option of leaving that community. But I come down the way I do come down, which is in favor of the policy in the case. Whether the courts or the legislature should be the ones to decide whether the test is met is a different issue. But I come down where I come down, which may be different from where you come down, because I do think that the Amish are making valuable, worthy ways of life available to their to their people. They are opening up some options, the option of being a member of this community and this community continuing to have integrity, even as they're closing others off.
Yeah.
But it's not without cost.
Well, it's an interesting note to end on, and I want to thank you for that question, because one of the things that I've, in preparing to talk to Robbie tonight, one of the things I realized on this is there often is not a bright line, you know, and there's no, sometimes it's a question of trying to find out where the right balance is, because it's not, it's something that has to be kind of managed rather than kind of definitively solved. Because they're goods on both sides. So I thank you for that, and
I agree that those are the really difficult cases.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
really difficult cases are choices between good and good.
Yeah,
not good and evil.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, Robbie.
Thank you, David.
Much appreciated.